Okay, so let's start by getting our normal maps and ambient occlusion maps. So the unfortunate thing is this works best if you just do it one object at a time. So I'm going to hide, we'll do the body first. So I'll hide the shirt and the pants. And I'm going to come up to let's see. Transfer details. I'm going to go to UVs and maps and do extract texture maps. So I can just leave this named at my extraction operation. And we're going to do a ambient occlusion and a normal map. So we'll start with ambient occlusion and look at our settings. So we want our target model to be the low resolution of our character, and our source model to be the high resolution of our character. So I'm going to select the body, and we'll do add selected, and you'll see that automatically that adds it in at level 0. And then I'm going to do add selected here as well at level 5. Actually, let's go ahead and try it with all of our objects. So we'll just do that with the shirt as well. So add selected, and then the pants. Add selected, add selected. So that should all be good. Now the output, under output map, the method I want to use here is not raycasting. Raycasting basically will work for two different models. So if you have two totally different models, say one without UVs or one with UVs, that's the method you would want to use. In our case, we have one model, but it's subdivided. So we're going to switch our method to subdivision. And that will get rid of a lot of those settings that we don't want. Our image size will be 4096, same as our textures. I don't really need to have anti-aliasing on for either my normal map or my ambient occlusion. It's just going to take up a little bit more time. And I want my shadow map resolution to also be 4096. And we'll just choose a file name. So I'll call this elf underscore AO underscore 4096. So I have that all set up. Then I can jump over to my normal map, and that will automatically change those settings to what I have in the ambient occlusion map. And so in here, the only thing that I need to do is name it. So we'll go elf underscore normal. And we will pick where we want to save that. So I have a project here. I have too many projects here. Elf project, and we'll just save that into we'll just do it here in this view. So elf underscore normal underscore 4096. Let me do that for my ambient occlusion as well. Just copy that name. Okay, and then that is all set up. Everything should work smoothly. I may run in, it's more likely I'll run into problems with the ambient occlusion map than the normal map. Normal map usually goes off without hitch. You know, there may be some things that I need to fix in Photoshop, but I'm going to pause the video while I extract these, because it should, you know, it may very well take quite a few minutes. So when I have that all set up, I'm just going to hit extract. Okay, so that worked, but I made a mistake. So I basically, whenever I added them all to the same operation, they basically all got added to the same texture, which is not what I want. So I'm going to fix that real quick just by going back to my extract texture map operation, and we'll start with the body. So we'll just remove the shirt and pants from both of these, and we'll change the name down here to elf body normal, and elf body AO. So let's try this out again. Okay, so that worked a little bit better that time. So if we go to our layers and make sure we have our body selected, go to layers, you see that we have a normal map here now, and we have a AO map that was automatically added to our diffuse. We can switch that to multiply and look at our results. Now it's going to look a little weird at first with the normal map, and that's because basically because we're smooth here, we're getting a double sculpted detail basically. So if I now drop my resolution on my mesh, now you're going to see that we have that better normal map detail in there with the pores. So we can also look at these and see what they look like. So that's what our normal, let's see, normal body. We looked at the wrong one there. So that's what our normal map looks like. And that's what our ambient occlusion map looks like. Both turned out pretty well. So now we can do the clothing. So I'm going to just hide the body for now. And rather than doing a new operation, I could add a new operation here, but I'm just going to use that same one because all our settings are the same. And we will remove the body and add the shirt and pants. Now the shirt and pants we can do at the same time because they're going to share a texture map. So that should not be a problem. And then I just need to come down and change the name from body to clothing. And hit extract. All right, so that finished up fine. So now I can again go to my layers, and we have this. Here's our normal map, so or our ambient occlusion map. So I'll set that to multiply, and then I'm just going to drop those subdivision levels on those guys. I think that's at its lowest level. It does look a little bit weird. We'll have to see if we can figure out why that's happening. But let's look at our actual maps and see if there's an issue. So clothing normal. Looks a little bit weird. I think I know what I did wrong there. Ambient occlusion looks okay. I think I know the issue with the normal map. I might have to rebake it. So let's look at our operation. We don't need ambient occlusion. We just want to look at normal map. And I think the issue that I had is I accidentally set my coordinate space to world space instead of tangent, and it should be set to tangent. So I'm going to do that, and then just rebake it or re-extract it real quick. Okay, so that looks a little crazy. Let's figure out what's going on. The pants look okay. The shirt does not. I'm not quite sure if that's just an error that occurred or we have a setting wrong somewhere. So let's actually try that one more time and see if it will kind of fix itself. Yeah, so that, lucky for us, that kind of fixed itself. I do realize after the fact now that I actually sculpted seams into the shirt, so I'll probably, and into the pants as well. So I definitely want to go in and fix that. So let's just look at the shirt real quick and see what layers that we have there. Make sure we have that selected. Let's look at what we have on. So we got all that dirt and stuff on a layer by itself, so we don't really need to worry with that. And then this other stuff here is probably the pants. So really the only thing that I need to worry with here is just getting rid of this stuff. So let's go to our paint tools and sample that color there. Make sure we're on the right. Just cover that stuff up. All right, so I got that all fixed. So now to get our maps into Photoshop. So it's fairly easy. I'm just going to go over to my, we'll start with the body. So I'm going to go to Body, Layers, and I'm just going to right click on my diffuse layer and say Export Channel to PSD. Let's try that again. There we go. So, let's see. Save this in our file here. So I like to keep, just for the sake of not having like multiple Photoshop files, I like to keep like my specular, normal, and color map all in one Photoshop file, and then I can save them all out separately. So I'll start just by going and naming this elf body maps 4096. And Mudbox actually connects up with Photoshop, so it gives us this cool wireframe if we want to look at the wireframe, but if not, we can just turn that off. So, yeah, so I think so far, just looking at this really quickly, I think the ambient occlusion is way too strong on this, so I'm just going to drop it down a little bit, maybe even try a different blending mode. So color burn actually works pretty well, or linear burn. I think I'm going to go back to linear burn and drop the opacity down a little bit more. So something like that. So what I'm going to do is just group all of my layers here in Photoshop. So I can select those guys, Control G to group them, and then I can just name that color. Now my normal map, I already have that saved out, so I can just open that from my project directory. So elf body normal. And I can just Control C and then jump over here, Control V, paste that in there, and just name that normal. And then my specular map, I don't need that bottom paint layer. I didn't really do anything to it, so I just need that speck there. So I'm just going to do see if we can do export selected and just name that speck. And then I can just Control C, Control A, select all, Control C to copy, and then I'll come over here and Control V to paste that in. And I'm going to put that in a group because I'm going to do some more stuff to that and call it spec. So now I have all of my textures in one Photoshop file, so I don't have to kind of maintain all these different Photoshop files. And I can just close those guys out. So now I can do that same thing to our clothing. So just select the shirt, and we'll go to layer, and we will right click, export channel to PSD, and we're going to name this one Elf Clothing Maps. Okay, we'll group these guys together and call this color. I'll bring in my specular, and I can just do place embedded. If you do place embedded, make sure you go to preferences, general, and make sure you have always create smart objects when placing. Make sure you check that off because we don't want it to be a smart object. So place embedded, elf clothing normal. Call that normal. And we actually don't have a spec for the clothing yet, so but I can make one pretty easily. But that's basically how we get those files out into Photoshop. Now, if I look at my directory here, it's got a lot of stuff in here I really need to organize. So I'll do that when you don't have to watch me do it. But from here, yeah, maybe we'll do editing the textures in Photoshop in a different video, and then I'll show you how to like change the color a little bit and do some things to the specular map to get it to look okay.